Ladies and gentlemen, gather around. Canada's 2025 federal election just dropped its wildest twist yet. And honestly, it's better than Netflix. A federal judge didn't just toss a pebble, they launched a judicial cannonball that rocked the whole system. The result? Recounts across the country. Yep, the decisive victory Mark Carney was celebrating might be as real as a diploma from Clown University. Welcome to Recount Palooza 2025. Featuring Carney's slow-motion faceplant and Pierre Poilievre's coast-to-coast comeback. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this breakdown, please like and subscribe. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing. It's free and helps the channel a ton. Okay, back to the chaos. Carney's popping champagne. The media's calling it historic, and liberals are high-fiving like it's 2015. But wait, recounts in 11 ridings? And that number's growing faster than a liberal excuse during a scandal. Apparently, Elections Canada, once the gold standard of bureaucratic order, is now running elections with all the precision of a toddler finger painting on Excel. Miscounted. Ballots, wrong postal codes, and ghost votes showing up like it's Halloween in July. Honestly, replace the entire staff with a pack of over-caffeinated raccoons, and you might not even notice the difference. Now enter the honorable judge armed, with a gavel and a truckload of common sense. And this isn't just a routine recount. We're talking nationwide chaos. Terra Nova, flipped, Windsor-Tecumseh, recounted, East Halton Hills, suspicious surge under the microscope. Even Montreal, Carney's own turf, is getting picked apart like a cold case file. Margins? We're not talking comfortable wins here. Some of these are under 10 votes. That's not democracy. That's a coin toss with international consequences. In Terra Nova, one ballot, yes, one, flipped the entire race. I've seen less drama in a family game of Monopoly. And the recounts? They're flipping results like it's political Uno. Reverse. Skip. Back to the Conservatives. Meanwhile, Pierre Poilievre is just sipping his coffee, calm as ever, watching Carney spiral like a broken Roomba. And let's give the man his credit. Poilievre, the political pitbull and policy nerd, has been warning us for years about this exact mess, elite arrogance and broken institutions. And here we are. He stood in front of roaring crowds, 15,000 strong in Alberta, while legacy media smugly predicted he'd barely attract 3 people. Spoiler alert, those 3 people brought the thunder. Meanwhile, Mark Carney couldn't fill a minivan without bribing folks with quinoa and climate pledges. And Pierre? Cool, collected, savage. He drops this line like a nuke. If Carney can't even secure his own seat without controversy, how can he run the country? Boom. Mic drop. Somebody hand Carney a fire extinguisher, because that roast came with first-degree burns. Now let's talk about Mark Sweet. Polished, overhyped Mark Carney. The media sold him to us like a liberal messiah, the economist turned savior. Bank of England governor, Harvard grad, supposed adult in the room. But what do we get? A faceplant into a pile of miscounted ballots, mail-in fraud, and voter ID failures so bad they make third-world elections look like Swiss clockwork. Let's break it down. His own riding in Montreal is under judicial recount. Why? Mail-in ballot. Irregularities, advanced polling inconsistencies, ballots counted after legal deadlines. Mark Buddy, you're the technocrat, the numbers guy. You were supposed to run the economy, and you can't even run a spreadsheet without fumbling into chaos? Try counting with your fingers and toes next time, and it gets even better. Or worse, if you're anywhere near Liberal HQ Windsor-Tecumseh, originally called for the Liberals by just 77 votes, Carney's team probably started planning the champagne toast. But then came the recount. Oops, Conservatives take it by 4 votes. That's not just a recount. That's a full-blown political plot twist straight out of a Christopher Nolan movie. You blink and boom, everything's flipped, over in East. Halton Hills, Elections Canada is under the microscope after a mysterious surge in Liberal support during advanced polling. No demographic spike. No turnout wave, just a sudden puff of Liberal votes like magic. Unless Hogwarts opened a polling station, someone better explain this hocus pocus. Even Dumbledore would be side-eyeing this mess. Now let's head west, Vancouver South. Liberals squeaked out a win by just 56 votes. But the numbers don't add up. Ballots exceed the number of registered voters. We're talking ghost votes, zombie ballots. Somebody call Scooby-Doo because this mystery needs a meddling kid. Fast. And then there's Halifax. Ballots allegedly misfiled, as in from completely different districts. Imagine mailing your rent to someone else's landlord and still expecting not to get evicted. But in liberal Canada, that's just strategic governance. But hold up. This ain't just a few typos. We're talking about ballots with no valid ID seals, missing improper chain of custody, and boxes labeled like someone played bingo blindfolded. This isn't democracy. It's a high-stakes episode of Whose Ballot Is It Anyway?, where the votes are fake, the rules don't matter, and the country's future hangs on a clerical shrug. Let's not forget the Quebec disaster. One riding flipped because someone messed up a postal code. One vote. That's it. The fate of a federal seat decided by someone typing H2X instead of H3A. If this were a sketch on SNL, they'd cut it for being too unrealistic. But here's the kicker. This isn't satire. It's real, and it's unraveling the entire 2025 election. So, where's Mark Carney during all this chaos? Nowhere. No pressers, no transparency, no leadership. The man who promised dignity and openness is now ducking behind ghostwritten statements and pre-recorded interviews. His current media strategy, less prime minister in waiting, more witness protection program. He's probably refreshing LinkedIn, hoping for a comfy banking gig in Zurich, because clearly Canadian politics is too spicy for Mr. Spreadsheet. Meanwhile, Pierre Poilievre, he's not just riding the wave. He's the storm. Owning the moment, owning the narrative. Every recount, every scandal, every court ruling just proves one thing. Pierre was right. Canadians, lulled into liberal media fog, are waking up. The system is rigged. The institutions are creaking. And Carney? He's just the latest malfunctioning cog in the machine Pierre's been warning about for years. Now, let's peek inside Liberal HQ. It's not a strategy meeting, it's a disaster movie. Polling's in freefall, the media's jumping ship. And Liberal MPs from recount-ridden ridings, fuming. Imagine working the phones, knocking doors, printing flyers, only to have your credibility torched by Carney's incompetence. You hustled for this? Now you're back home facing furious voters while your leader hides like a cat during fireworks. And the staff leaks? Oh, they're pouring out. Trudeau's old guard is anonymously torching Carney's new crew. Behind the scenes, it's a civil war of blame-shifting, backstabbing, and sheer confusion. Carney promised order. What he delivered was a 5-alarm electoral dumpster fire. The Liberals wanted a fresh start. Instead, they lit a bureaucratic bonfire. This, right here, is what happens when you try to replace charisma with credentials, when you mistake a shiny CV for actual leadership, when you think balancing spreadsheets is the same as running a nation. Mark Carney swaggered in like a Wall Street wizard and got absolutely pantsed by a few miscounted ballots and a judge who still owns a moral compass. The irony? Carney hasn't even spent a full day in Parliament. His political resume is thinner than the margins in his own failed recounts. Yet this was supposed to be the Liberal future, the great fixer, the adult in the room. Well, if this was fixing, the only thing he fixed was the Liberal Party's trajectory. Straight into a wall. Now what? We've got judicial recounts sweeping the country, Elections Canada under the microscope, and a Conservative leader rising from the smoke like a prime minister in waiting. Pierre Poilievre didn't just survive this chaos, he's thriving in it. While Carney plays hide-and-seek with accountability, Pierre's out there meeting Canadians, answering tough questions, and leading like he actually wants the job. So here's the question. Is this Canada's biggest election disaster ever, or just the slow-motion political collapse of Mark Carney? Either way, grab your popcorn, because this recount circus, far from over, and the only thing clearer than the court rulings is that Carney's political honeymoon just turned into a full-blown annulment. So tell us in the comments, is Carney toast? Is Pierre the next PM? And is Elections Canada just rolling dice and calling it democracy? Smash that like button, subscribe for more political fireworks, and share this with every Canadian who opened their ballot and got more drama than a Netflix thriller. Because if democracy dies in darkness, Canada's 2025 election just turned on the disco ball.